TODO backend. Let's open our VS Code. Code space dot. Okay. Let's wait for the virtual environment to get activated. Virtual environment got activated. Now let's revise what we did in the last class. Okay. So in the last class, we had our database and we created 2 entries in the database. Then in our views.py, we try to access those entries. Now, if you look here, this objects that you're seeing here, right? This object is what is ORM. This is what talks to your database. In the back, it is going to talk to your database and it will send you Python objects. So database entries to Python objects and Python objects to database entries. So this objects, this here is your ORM. Okay. So today we'll spend more time with ORM. We will see how to practice ORM commands, and I will also give you a workbook where you can use that workbook to practice ORM commands. Okay. So first of all, I think we don't need this now. Let me remove this. This is the part we have written just for testing. So let's remove it. Okay. And let's actually see how developers test their database, how developer test their ORM in the in VS Code. Okay. So let's go to view the terminal. Okay. Now to test your ORM, the command is you can open a shell and you can test your ORM there. Okay. What is the command for shell? Python manage.py shell. Now, if you remember everything, all the administrative tasks are done by manage.py. So opening shell is also done by manage.py. Okay, shell. This has created an interactive shell for us. Here we can write all our ORM commands and we can access our database and we can test our ORM. Okay. So first of all, let me import this model here. We have done here, right? From .models import task, we have to do the same thing here. So before we can access ORM, we need our model. Okay. So from, what is the app name? TODO API. From TODO API dot models. So TODO API models. From TODO API models import. What is the class name? What is the model name we have? Tasks. So from TODO API, we'll import tasks. Once this model is imported, now since this task class is a subclass of model, it has all the ORM features. So first of all, what is the first ORM command I'm going to try is to get all the database entries. So all entries is equal to tasks dot objects. This object comes from the model dot all. What will this command give? This command will give us all DB entries in that table. All DB entries in the table. Okay. Let's see. All DB entries in the table. Now, how will I see all those entries? I'll write print all entries. See, we get 2 entries. Now, if you look at these entries, we have 2 entries, right? Task 1, task 2. But instead of getting the text there, instead of getting the text properly, task 1, task 2, what am I getting? I'm just getting a object references. I'm not getting the data actually, right? So to get data of this any of the objects, this is Python concept. To get the data of any object, to get the representation of any object whenever you're printing it in the console, we use a function called repr. Okay, we use a function called repr. Let's implement that repr function here. Now, how do we implement repr? For any Python function, we start it with def underscore underscore repr. Now, repr is a magic method. In case you don't know what magic methods are, you just let me know. Okay, and then any method that we write inside a Python class always starts with self, and then repr method returns a string on how to represent your data. So we'll say return a string. We'll have a string and we'll say, what will we say? Title, self.title, self.description, self.description. Okay. Now okay, since we have, now let's try to print it. Okay, it still did not know why. Because whenever you make any changes to your models, you have to make migrations and run it. Make migrations and do the migrate. So let's make migrations because we have changed our models.py file. Then migrate. And then we'll go to shell. Inside our shell, we'll import from TODO API dot models import tasks, and then alt all 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 tasks equal to, we'll get all the tasks here, that is task dot objects dot all. Okay, now we'll print it. See, this time you are getting the title and the description also. This is coming from your repr method. Since I wrote title first, title is coming. Next I wrote the description and the description is coming. So title and description are now visible because of the repr method. So now this is one Python concept you have learned. What is repr method is something you can learn further also. Okay. Now let's come back to our app. Now, whenever we have a to-do list app, do we think we need more fields, right? Whether it is completed or not, that's also a field that we should have, right? So let's add a field, COMPLET. So what we're doing here is we're adding new field called completed and models dot. Can you guess what the field here will be? Because it's completed, it's always in yes or no, it will be in BooleanField. BooleanField, and default, whenever you're creating a task, of course, it is not completed as soon as you have created, right? So default is equal to false. Okay. Now, since we have made changes to our models, we have to do the migrations again, right? So first, let me exit this. Exit the shell. Command to exit the shell is exit, and then we will make migrations, and then we'll migrate. Okay. And let me open the shell again. Python manage.py shell. Okay. Now let me try to get all the tickets and see what is the status. Okay, what is the mistake I made here? Instead of saying objects, I have said object. So always singular, plural, capital, small, first letter, capital or small. This is one of the most common issues you are going to face while in your whole development life. Print all. Yeah. Now I would ask you one thing. Why did the completed field not come here? You see his task description. What about the completed field? Why is the completed field not added? Because we have not added it in the repr. So anything that you have to show in the display, you have to add it in the repr method. Self dot complete. Okay, let me open a new tab, make migrations and run those migrations. I'll have to close the shell and open again. Now you see you have your true and false added because I have added it in the repr method. Okay. Now, what are other ORM commands that I can use? Okay. Let's say I want to get ticket number one. If you see here, task number one. I am teaching ticket in another project. So yeah. So let's say I want to get task number one. So what will be the ORM command for that? Task one. So task one is equal to task dot objects dot get ID. You see the field ID equal to 1. Now I'll print task 1. Print task 1. Okay. Now we have got one object here. Okay. Now let's say task 1 dot title. Task 1 title is task 1. Task 1 dot description must learn ORM. And whether it is completed or not, how will I find out? See here, task 1 dot completed. So this is how you can access single ticket also. Completed full. Okay. Now let me change this value from completed false to completed true. So how will I do that? Task 1 dot completed equal to true. And one more thing I have to do here is I have to also save this. Unless I save this, this is not going to reflect in my database. I've just written true here. See, it is not reflected in the database. But when I say TAS task1 dot save, it will then be reflected in the database. See, completed is true. Okay. Next. So what is the ORM command? Now let's see how we will create a new entry. So for creating new entry, task dot objects dot create, and then here I'll give the parameters first. I don't need to give the ID. I can start with title. Title equal to what is title? Task T description. Description is equal to keep working. And about this, about completed or not. Since by default I have given it as false, so I don't need to provide it if it is not. If it is false, I don't need to provide it. I can just keep it like that. Okay, now what is there here again? I can blindly tell you it is capital letter, small letter error. I wrote capital objects instead of small objects. Okay, now we have created a new data. Let's see whether the data is reflected in the database. You see, the data is now reflected in the database. Okay, similarly, can I create another task? Yes, let me create another task. Task 4. Learn Python basics. Okay, and this time, let's say I want to say that this task is completed. Okay, I can create it here. Completed equal to true. Okay, now let's see in the database. Yes, this task is now created in the database with completed is equal to true flag. Okay, let's say I want to find out all the tasks from the database which are completed. How will I find out? COM underscore TASKS task. COM underscore TASKS tasks is equal to, what will I say? Tasks dot objects dot filter. What will I filter for? Task dot object dot filter completed equal to true. Okay. Print C. Two tasks, task 1 and task 4, which are completed, we have got it. Okay, we got the two tasks that are completed. Similarly, you can also filter for non-completed task. Okay, incomp tasks, and when we say print, we'll get task 2 and task 3. Okay, so this way you can perform all the database operations, and if you notice, we are performing all the database operations, but we are not using any SQL code here. All of these database operations are happening with ORM. Okay. So to help you further, I have prepared a ORM guide cheat sheet for this table for your project. So after the class, you can use this ORM guide to learn how ORM works. Okay. And practice this. And in fact, you can practice more of the ORM commands. Because the better you are at ORM, the better backend developer you will become. If your grip on ORM is not good, you will face challenges while building the bigger projects. Okay, so I'll share this sheet with you after the class and practice ORM. So today's class was dedicated to practicing ORM. And you should practice ORM. And also I have made a also I have shared the link of the notes. Okay, I have made a post. I think you can see that in the post where I have shared the link of the notes. So those notes also you can refer after the class. I'll put the link of those notes also below the video.